Good morning, everyone. And I have Keturah with me, and she's going to share her story with you guys. So I'm going to let Keturah take it away and start by sharing your story with you guys.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Wynn. I am a fan of yours in many ways. And so just a little bit about me. My story is one I think that anybody can resonate with, right? Somebody who just wanted to be a good mom, a good wife, and a good contributor to the world and to her work life. And so, I got married at 19 years old, very young. And somewhere in the process of that, between a year and 3 years, I had my first three children after marriage. And because I didn't at the time know how to navigate, right? Just what it would feel like to be a mom and to still have dreams. I felt like life had just kind of stopped for me. And I went through a rough patch. It's one of those things I don't like to talk about, but I realize looking back now that it is just part of the process. But early on, when I had my third child, I actually went through some postpartum depression. And ironically, I was that happy-go-lucky person. Like nobody would ever think of me as somebody who was dealing with depression or dealing with any kind of issues around my emotions. But, the doctor, he did put me on medication. And 6 months in, I just said, this is not it. This is not the way I'm supposed to be living my life. And I had to do a lot of reflecting. I had to do a lot of self-reflection and start asking myself questions, what exactly is it that I want? But fast forward, I was able to go through a series of self-reflective practices that helped me to bounce back and just reclaim my life. So I didn't end up just stepping into entrepreneurship and being the mompreneur. It didn't happen that way. It was quite a journey, but that was really the first, I guess, pivot for me in identifying like, hey, you know what do you need? What do you need to focus on? Fast forward in 2012, I was 12 years into my marriage, or almost 12 years in, I should say, and we made a major move. We moved from Florida to New Jersey. Lots of it was related to family and the needs that we had at the time. We wanted to be closer to extended family, um, and also a crumbling marriage too. So when we made that move, a year later, our marriage actually ended. And so that was another pivot for me, pivot number two. Then within a year, even though I was doing well, um, in the corporate world, I had a job. I had just gotten a really good corporate job. I was just feeling emotionally and internally depleted. But, you know, they tell you, hey, you got a good job, you have money in the bank, you're good. And I thought I was good, but I wasn't. And in the process of that, I happened to meet my second husband, and his worldview is just phenomenal. And that was pivot number three for me. Uh, he really lives by a set of standards that when I met him, I don't I wasn't ready for that. And I had to make a decision within 5 months of our marriage. I got remarried and I thought, okay, well, you're with somebody new, everything's gonna be fine. You don't have to worry about all of the other stuff. And the problem with that is a lot of people, we do that, right? We think, okay, well, I'll just start over. I'll just step into a new relationship. I'll get a new job. I'll get a new house. I'll buy a new car. And the problem just follows us because we never dealt with the stuff that was internal. And that's what happened for me. I got a new husband. I moved to a new town. I actually was in a new car too, and a new home. And all the problems that I had, they just followed me. And so within those 5 months, I had to seriously, seriously dig in. And that's really where everything transformed for me. And of course, I know you're going to ask other questions to kind of unpeel peel those layers, but that's what led me to where I am today. Now, there are some other things that I had to, within the journey, start asking myself, and assessments that I did to really, really discover what is it that, if I had to do it for the rest of my life, right? Or if I only had 6 months to live, what would I really do with my life? And that brought me to where I am now as an emotional fluency coach and specialist.
So, why did you go into the emotional fluency coaching and specialist?
So, well, if I can preface this by letting you know, I do have a master's degree in social work and I have a clinical background. And the irony sometimes is that the helping folks, right? We want to help the world, we want to save the world. And it gives so much internal self gratification to make a difference out there. So I had it backwards. I was making a difference in the world. I started off as a high school teacher. Then I moved into corporate America. That didn't work. So I went back into a place where I thought, okay, let me really, really go make a difference. The issue was not corporate America. The issue was me, right? So I went and I was making, and I was making a difference. I was helping people. There were so many families that every day I had evidence that, hey, your work makes a difference, but I still felt depleted within. I was dealing with a lot of families who had mental health issues, whether within themselves or their children. And so there was a lot of that parent child conflict that came up. There was a lot of conflict that came up for people that had it together. They had it together. They had the money. They had the house. They had similar stories to mine, but things were not all right. And it's just so beautiful and so ironic that while I was going through my own internal journey, I was able to see so many case studies of people who were going through some of the same things, but they didn't have the resources that I had. And the difference is that I was doing a lot of personal development work on myself. I was also doing some inner healing, yeah, and that's more spiritual, but it's what also made the difference. And so it was a combination of personal development and inner healing. And what I found was that all my education didn't help. What really, really helped was when I was ready to look within and to do the inner work, to deal with what I call the issues within the tissues. And that takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of patience, but it takes that fine tuning. And so as I would work with myself and then take what's happening with me and now apply that to other families, I would see massive transformation, massive differences happening. But what I was doing was different in the workspace of mental health. And really, I couldn't continue as a mental health clinician working in the areas that I wanted, that I really saw that disconnect for people. And so I had to make a decision. Do I stay in mental health and just work on the I don't of course mental health is not the surface, it's below the surface, but it's like going deeper within that subcutaneous tissue, right? Um and so I said, well, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm just going to have to make that decision about how I want to show up for people. Do I want to just work with them on a 6-week basis and, yes, help them identify the crisis they're dealing with? Or do I want to help them so that they can set themselves up for success, inevitable success that they could rinse and repeat, show them some tools that, of course, within my proprietary process I developed, but show them what worked for me so that I could fix this thing for good. And so that's what really brought me to emotional fluency.
So it basically, was fixing the issues within the tissue underneath your own skin that, um, brought you into the career that you are now.
There was just a little bit of there was a little bit of static, so I didn't hear your question.
I was going to say that it you working on yourself brought you to the career you are now.
I don't know why there's static, so every time, let's try it one more time.
I was going to say the working on yourself brought you emotional fulfillment to where you are
For some reason, the last part is not coming through. I was working on myself. I heard that part.
to the career you are now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's what led to this. It's really, and I know that we go to school. We go to school for 12 years. And of course all of us have different circumstances around our lives when it comes to what the structure of life looks like. But for, I guess, the average person, they would say, okay, I go to school 12 years, then you go to college 4 years, and you're supposed to just come out of college and know what it is that you're supposed to do. Um, but there, I really believe in the school of life now. I have 5 children, and more than anything, I want them to be prepared for life, not prepared for a career, because we can have a career and not have a life. And I saw this with myself, and I've seen it not just with myself, but now that I'm working specifically with clients in these areas, um, I see that, hey, it's really about extracting the essence out of life, extracting the essence out of every moment, and making each moment a celebration, despite what challenges you may be facing. Like, there are so many things that could create limitations for us, but I'm understanding more and more, and this is what I endeavor to share with clients, that it's really, really what you decide that it's going to be. When you put yourself in that position and you say, okay, what is the identity that I want to have? Who do I want to be? That be do have model. I don't know who started the be do have model, but it's amazing. And I use that a lot with the clients that I work with. And it's like sometimes within a week or two, they're like, whoa, I had such an aha moment, Keturah, because then we shift the focus from not just, okay, well, I have this, I have that, right? I want to have a degree, I want to have a house, I want to have the things, but no, who do I need to be? And it works both ways, because I've seen that in my case, yes, I had some of the things, but I didn't have the inner peace. I didn't have that peaceful presence. I didn't have that paramount presence that really is what drives you internally. But I also see the opposite side of that, where sometimes people will use limitations as an excuse not to do the things that they want to do. But it's really about who you're choosing to be. What identity are you choosing to align yourself with? And then you ask yourself, what needs to happen for me to have the things that I want from that identity? So one of the things I say to my clients a lot when we do our vision casting, and right now I'm actually going through a master class. I'm on I think day 2 of it, with a group of clients, and then I'll be repeating it again in December. Oh, we're actually in December. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I'll be repeating it in a couple of weeks, I should say. But working from that identity space, we've been breaking it down, looking at, okay, well, what were some of your wins? What were some of your areas that you need to work on? But from the vision part, I say to them, don't work towards your vision. When you work towards your vision, what tends to happen is you're still in the identity of the person who's incapable. But when you work from the vision, you are that person. And now you're calling to you everything that you need. And you begin to just become so innovative about how to make things happen when right now physically it seems impossible. And so when I talk about vision, I also talk about innovation with people. And I always say this: for innovation to happen, you need to have four things. You need to have a problem to solve, limited resources, a crazy idea, and a willingness to fail. And so many people are not willing to fail, but
Amen.
it's the will. Yeah.
Amen to that, a willingness to fail. And so, if your best friend were to write a book about you, what would the title be?
You said if my best friend were to write a book about
Yeah.
me? I love that question. Oh my. Well, my best friend, okay, I gotta say, if I had to think about what the book would be that my best friend would write, she would write something like you want the title, or do you want the theme?
Give me both.
Okay. So the theme would definitely be a mixture of resilience, creativity, and rebirth. And I say this because there's a lot that I've been through. And I look at it now and I say, you haven't been through anything. Because then I come now to this point where I see how it is that I navigated through. And there are so many things that if I hadn't gone through it, I would not know how to now help certain people. I wouldn't know how to set aside my judgments, right? And be non judgmental and say, okay, let me do some deep listening and identify and help you identify, not just identify for the person, but help them identify what is the root issue that they're dealing with. I always say the issue or the problem is not the problem. We talk about the things, and it's really the thing we're not talking about that is the problem. And I have a skill for being able to listen deeply and hear what the real problem is, so that especially for clients, when they're talking about deep things that involve emotions and involve other things, like even sometimes trauma, there's that gesture quality that I have where we can bring playfulness into the conversation, so that it's not that we're taking things lightly or taking it easy, as if it's not serious, but it's just it's part of the process, right? So that's one. And so the creativity is how I've had to figure out just what to do, and to do it in a way that collapses time, really, that causes me to not lose my mind. I mentioned earlier that in my young 20s, I actually dealt with some, depression. Um, and number three, rebirth, because it's like every single thing you go through, you do shed a layer. And it's how you look at it, too. Because somebody can go through a challenge and come out of it saying, "Oh my, you just don't know where I've been, what I've been through," and never be able to find the learning in there. You're either learning or you're earning. So that's what I say. My life lessons have come from either learning it or earning it. And sometimes it requires a lot of skin in the game for you to earn for you to earn the lesson. So that would be the theme in my book. I guess if I had to create a title, it just comes from what I said, the learning and the earning of life, something like that.
The, uh, the learning and the owning of life. Love it, love it, love it. And, Cole, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they choose to do so?
So you can find me on not on any, I'm not on every social media platform. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, at the handles Keturah Rosato, KETURAH ROSATO. So if you look for me on any of those platforms, with my name, my first and last name, you can find me there. And I also have a website that you can go to. It's my first and last name.com, KeturahRosato.com, and there you can learn all about me. And if anybody wants to do a discovery call with me just to really identify what is their emotional fluency advantage, which is one of the things that I have as um, a free gift for them, so that they can get started and identify where they could really lean in from and use their competitive advantage, then they can get that from me.
Well, isn't that wonderful? And do you have any questions for me as we wrap this interview up?
Questions for you. Well, my question for you would be, what would you say is your emotional fluency advantage, even though you haven't taken the quiz yet?
My emotional and fluency advantage would be I'm an empath. I'm what they call an empath, so I can read people in 2 seconds flat. I can tell the writing on the walls before, people even mention stuff to me. It's happened to me 3 times in my life, and it's happened to, me over and over again in 2019/2020, and the biggest one is I knew coronavirus was coming before everyone else did, and I knew, um, what to do for my own safety and what to do with my own body when coronavirus came, and yeah, so that's the empathic gift that I have.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And I appreciate everyone's support. I appreciate you guys listening. And please, please, please reach out to Laura if you have any questions. And please share this episode out. Please like and subscribe in Apple Podcast. And please leave a review and all that good stuff. And I will catch you guys later. Bye, you guys. Thanks. See you guys.
Bye. Thank you so much.